Chapter 1, Class Assignment. Ash Procell stood outside the town hall of Fairhaven with his hands shoved deep in his pockets, trying not to look like he was shaking. Just breathe. You've waited years for this. 4 months of training. It has to count for something. The yearly class assignment was the biggest event of the year for anyone under 20. Today, the system would finally look at him, really look at him, and decide what he was allowed to become. For most people, it was a formality. For Ash, it felt like Judgment Day. He had spent the last 4 months training nonstop just to receive a decent class, getting up at the crack of dawn just to run through the muddy fields. Thing is, I have asthma, which made this workout particularly tough for my weak lungs. Night after night, he spent his time by candlelight going over all the possibilities until he passed out. He had even volunteered with the town guard as a courier. It wasn't glamorous or anything. It actually hurt his legs and lungs. But I tried. Gods, I tried harder than anyone else here, especially my bully Trent Marlin. He was also a year younger than me and bigger too. All he wanted was something decent, not legendary, not heroic, just good enough to walk through a world gate and join a normal dungeon party. Laborer was not good enough. Everyone knew laborers stayed on this side of the gates, hauling crates and sweeping streets until their backs gave out. Squire wasn't even an option on the basic list anymore. Those spots were reserved for the sons of actual knights. Merchant, jeweler, alchemist, those would have been fine. Anything that let him leave this quiet, ordinary town and see what waited on the other side of the gates. At least with merchant I could leave and see the universe. No delving, but that's still fine with me. Jeweler, on the other hand, could join groups as support with their enchanted jewelry. I could cast party buffs and make enchanted gear. Alchemist would work as well, probably the best out of the basic support classes. Please, just something that isn't nothing. Ash drew a slow breath and stepped inside. Okay, Procell, this is it. Rows of long benches filled the space of the town hall, already packed with families. Nobles and common folk shared this space roughly as equals once a year. Parents whispered behind cupped hands. Younger kids bounced on their heels or clung to their mother's skirts. At the far end, Magistrate Ordinow stood behind a heavy oak table. The assignment crystal rested in front of him, glowing with a soft, steady white light that made the air around it shimmer. Ash found a seat near the back, wedged between a farmer's son who smelled of onions and a girl who kept chewing her thumbnail. He tried to breathe normally. His heart refused to cooperate. For the most part, they all looked so sure, like they already know they're getting something good. I wasn't so sure. One by one, the names were called. Trent Marlin swaggered up first, all broad shoulders and easy confidence. The crystal flared bright silver the moment his palm touched it. Trent reached the stage and turned away from Ordinow. Everyone gathered here has the honor of witnessing my path to greatness. He held out his closed hand above his head. My class assignment will be monumental to this great town and bring our world out to the forefront of the empire. The crowd cheered, some even whooping in agreement. All right, calm down everyone. Remember, this is a formal function. Magistrate Ordinow gestured towards the crystal. Now then, Trent, place your hand on the crystal. Trent nodded. Shield Knight, Vellum announced, voice carrying to every corner of the hall. Cheers erupted. Backslaps landed hard enough to stagger lesser boys. Trent turned, found Ash in the crowd, and shot him a look that clearly said, "Stay in your place, Procell." The ethereal outline of heavy armor flickered around Trent's body for a moment before fading. He walked back to his seat like he already owned the town. Of course he gets Shield Knight. Of course the universe hands him everything on a silver plate. Bastard. Ash's jaw tightened. Then Quinn Hannigan. Ash's stomach did a stupid little flip when she walked past his row. She had tied her dark hair back with a simple ribbon, and the freckles across her nose stood out under the crystal's light. She placed her hand on the stone. The glow bloomed orange-red, warm and alive. Fire Mage. More applause. Someone whistled. Quinn smiled, shy and radiant. Ash looked away before anyone caught him staring. She'll be throwing fireballs in a month, visiting other worlds, and I'll still be here. He had known her since they were 6. She had once shared her lunch with him when his parents forgot to pack one. Now the distance between them felt like it had just grown by 1,000 miles. She hangs out with Trent now, too. Others followed in a steady parade of respectable futures. A merchant whose crystal glowed soft gold, a jeweler who actually cried when the system confirmed it, an alchemist who whooped so loud his mother had to drag him back to his seat, a scout, even a rare beast tamer that made the entire hall gasp and lean forward as if they might catch a glimpse of some invisible animal at the boy's heels. Merchant would have been fine. Jeweler, alchemist, hell, I'd take scout. Anything that gets me through a gate. Anything that means I'm not stuck here forever. Every time the crystal lit up with something useful, Ash felt the hope in his chest stretch a little thinner. He kept his eyes on the floorboards between his boots and counted his breaths. 4 months of training, years of dreaming. It had to mean something. The system had to see the effort. It had to. Don't get your hopes up. You always get your hopes up, and it never works out. Just don't. The names kept coming. No one dared leave till the ceremony concluded. Sunlight shifted across the high windows, marking the slow crawl of the afternoon. Finally, Ash Procell. The sound of his own name hit him like a slap. He stood. His legs felt disconnected from the rest of him, as if someone else were operating them. The walk to the table seemed longer than it should be. He could feel every pair of eyes on his back, curious, pitying, already dismissive. This is it. Whatever happens next is what I am. No more pretending, no more hoping. Trent's low chuckle drifted from somewhere to the left. Quinn's gaze flicked toward him and then away, as if she already knew. Magistrate Vellum barely glanced up. The old man's mouth was set in its usual thin line of mild contempt for anyone who wasn't born into a useful family. He gestured once, impatient. Ash placed his hand on the crystal. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The white light simply continued to glow, calm and indifferent. Ash's pulse hammered in his ears. He waited for the familiar flare of color. Silver, gold, soft blue, anything. Come on, please, just give me something I can live with. Then the crystal turned a deep, ugly crimson. The light pulsed like an open wound. A faint metallic scent, like old blood and cold iron, drifted up from the stone. The temperature in the hall seemed to drop several degrees. A system window bloomed in the corner of Ash's vision, sharp and final. Class assignment complete. Class, Cleric of Murder. Rarity, unique. You have been recognized by the system as a vessel suited for the quieter rites of death. Where other clerics mend, you unmake. Where others purify, you end. Your path is not one of glory, healing, or light. It is one of necessity. Warning, this class is poorly received in most civilized settlements. Social penalties apply. No, Ash gasped. Vellum's face went pale. He stared at the floating system text that only he could fully read, as if the words had personally insulted him. The silence stretched until it became something heavy and alive. Cleric of Murder, the magistrate said at last. His voice was flat, loud enough for the entire hall to hear, and laced with open disgust. No, 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 no. Someone in the back laughed, a short, sharp bark of disbelief. Someone else made a sound of pure revulsion. Ash's mother covered her mouth with both hands. His father's shoulders collapsed inward, as if the words had physically struck him. Cleric of Murder. That's not a class. That's a curse. That's what they call the people who never come back from the gates. Vellum looked at Ash the way a man looks at a diseased animal that has wandered into the house. A cleric of murder has no right in our fair town, he declared, each word deliberate. You will leave by sundown. The gates of Fairhaven will not open for you again. May the gods have mercy on whatever world is unfortunate enough to receive you. That's not fair, the magistrate cut in, voice rising. The class assignment never lies. It is the embodiment of truth. Then why didn't I receive a class last year or the year before that? Ash protested, the words coming out thinner than he wanted. Vellum's face twisted. He raised his voice so the entire hall could hear every syllable. I will not have it, not from scum like you. The word landed harder than the class itself. Scum. Ash stood there with the crimson light still reflecting in his eyes. The weight of an entire town's rejection settled on his shoulders like a second skin. He could hear the whispers starting already. Sharp, hungry, mean. He could feel Trent's grin without needing to look. He could sense Quinn's horror without turning his head. Scum. That's what I am now. The system looked at everything I am, every run, every sleepless night, every stupid hope, and decided this was the truth of me. Cleric of murder, a walking stain, something that shouldn't be allowed near decent people. He wanted to shout once more that he never asked for it, that he would have taken laborer, that he would have taken anything else. The word stayed locked behind his teeth. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't just prove Vellum right. Ash Procell, cleric of murder, turned away from the table. He was effectively exiled. Not even his parents could help him now. He walked out of the town hall without a word, past the staring faces and the sudden hush that followed him like a shadow. Behind him, the laughter finally broke free, loud, scattered, and cruel. A piece of overripe fruit splattered against the doorframe just as he passed through it. Outside, the afternoon sun felt colder than it should have. Sundown. I have until sundown to leave the only home I've ever known. He kept walking, each step heavier than the last. The system window still hovered at the edge of his vision, patient and unblinking. The word kept echoing in his head, louder than the laughter, louder than the quiet confirmation of what he had become. Scum. For the first time in his life, Ash Procell didn't argue with it. In his heart, he knew at least he has no other choice than to leave. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Sundown. Ash returned to the small house on the edge of the residential quarter without speaking to anyone. The front door was unlocked. It always was. His parents were not home, or if they were, they made no sound when he entered. He moved quickly through the rooms he had known his entire life. A worn backpack from the closet, the dented canteen that still smelled faintly of the metal it was made from, 4 gold coins from the small wooden box under his bed, everything he had managed to save from courier work and odd jobs. He counted them twice before slipping them into an inner pocket. 4 gold. If an inn includes food, maybe 2 weeks. If not, a week at most. After that, I'm on my own. He did not leave a note. There was nothing left to say. By the time he reached the town gates, the sun had already begun its slow descent, painting the wooden walls of Fairhaven in long orange shadows. The guards on duty did not speak to him. One of them simply pointed at the open gate and then at the sky, as if to remind him of the deadline. Ash stepped through without looking back. He waited just outside the walls, standing a short distance from the road that led toward the redwood forest and the nearest world gate. Part of him still hoped someone would come. His mother, his father, anyone. No one did. The sun continued to drop. Then he heard soft footsteps on the packed dirt. Quinn Hannigan stopped a few paces away. There was no nervousness in her posture this time. Her arms were crossed, and the look she gave him was pure contempt. "Well," she said, voice sharp and loud enough to carry. "Look who finally got what he deserved." Ash turned toward her, already bracing himself. Quinn's lip curled. "I always knew there was something wrong with you, Ash. Lurking around, staring at people, acting like you belonged. The crystal didn't lie. You're scum. Always have been." She took a step closer, eyes cold. "I'm with Trent now. Real classes, real potential. Our party is going to be the strongest this town has ever seen. And you?" She laughed once, short and mean. "You're exactly what the system said you are, a cleric of murder, a walking stain. If only you'd been anything normal, but you weren't. You never were." Ash's hands tightened on the straps of his backpack until the leather creaked. "Just go away," he said, voice rough. Quinn smirked. "Gladly. Don't come back. No one here wants you." She turned and walked back toward the gates without another glance. Ash stood there for a moment longer, the last of the sunlight slipping below the tree line. Then he turned and started walking, the shadows of the redwood forest stretching toward him like open arms. Ash Procell, cleric of murder, scum of Fairhaven, left the only home he had ever known without looking back. The system window still hovered at the edge of his vision, quiet and patient. As the road narrowed and the first massive redwoods rose around him, he finally focused on it and pulled up his full status for the first time. Status, name, Ash Procell, race, human, class, cleric of murder, unique, level 1, vitality 12, endurance 11, strength 9, agility 13, intelligence 14, Wisdom 16, Willpower 15, Free Points 0, Health 120 out of 120, Mana 160 out of 160, Stamina 110 out of 110, Titles none, Skills Quiet Ending, Passive. Damage dealt to unaware or restrained targets is increased by 25%. Killing blows leave minimal external evidence. Mark of Necessity, Active. Mark a single target. While marked, the target's healing received is reduced by 40%. Cooldown 5 minutes. Last Rites, Active. Instantly kill a target below 15% health. Mana cost scales with target's remaining vitality. Spells, Blood Severance. A thin crimson thread of mana that seeks vital points. Low base damage, high critical chance against living targets. Silence the Heart. Temporarily suppress a target's ability to scream or call for help. Duration 8 seconds. Unmake. Channel Spell. Slowly drains the target's life force while the caster remains focused. Extremely inefficient at low levels. Ash walked deeper between the towering redwoods, reading every line carefully. Vitality 12, barely above average. I'm not built to take hits. Endurance 11, makes sense. My lungs already hate me. Strength 9, weaker than most laborers. Great. Agility 13, at least I can move when I need to. Intelligence 14, not a genius, but not stupid either. Wisdom 16, highest stat. The system thinks I'm good at understanding what? Death? Willpower 15, stubborn enough to keep going even when everything tells me to stop. That tracks. He moved on to the skills. Quiet Ending, a passive that rewards me for killing people who don't see it coming, and then hides the evidence. Exactly what a Scum class would give. Mark of Necessity, make healing less effective. So if someone tries to save the person I'm killing, it just doesn't work as well. Charming. Last Rites, instant kill once they're already dying. A finishing move. No mercy, no second chances. Then the spells. Blood Severance, a thin red thread that goes for the important parts. Low damage, but high chance to hit something vital. Efficient Murder. Silence the Heart. Stop them from screaming. 8 seconds of quiet while I finish the job, so no one hears. Unmake. Slow life drain that needs me to keep focusing. Inefficient right now. Probably gets better later, or more horrifying. Ash closed the status window for a moment and kept walking, the forest growing darker around him. So I have no healing, no support skills at all, he thought. He already knew that most clerics gained additional skills and spells as they leveled, along with free ability points to shape their growth. I wonder what my spread will be when I finally start putting points in. Maybe I'll gain healing later. Maybe I can just pretend to be a normal cleric, evolve the class away from murder somehow. He focused on the system window still lingering at the edge of his vision and asked the question directly, the way everyone was taught. System, is it possible to change this class, to become a regular cleric or a holy priest instead? A long moment passed. The forest was quiet except for the distant creak of redwood branches. Then the system answered, its text appearing in the same cold, precise font as before. Response: no. Class Cleric of Murder has only one path, the path of death and secrets. Becoming a holy priest is not possible. Ash stared at the words until they faded. The last thin hope he had been carrying finally went out. He kept walking. By the time the massive stone arch of the World Gate came into view, full night had settled over the redwood forest. The gate stood alone in a wide clearing, its surface currently dark and inert. Faint runes carved along the stone flickered with residual power, waiting. Moss grew in the cracks between the ancient blocks, and the air around it carried a faint ozone scent that always lingered near active gates. Ash stopped a few paces away and stared at it for a long moment. This is it. Once I step through, I probably won't be able to leave the new world for a long time. Most first-world contracts lock you in until you hit a certain level or complete the assigned objective. He drew a slow breath, feeling the familiar tightness in his chest from the asthma that had never fully left him. Please be a good one. "System," he said quietly. "Initiate travel to my first world." The system responded at once. World Gate activation. Initiating travel for Level 1 class holder. Destination? Randomized. Matching parameters to class Cleric of Murder. World selection in progress. The dark surface of the gate began to glow. First a dull red, then a deeper, blood-like crimson that pulsed in time with something Ash could feel in his chest. The runes along the arch flared one by one, casting long, shifting shadows across the clearing. A low hum filled the air, growing steadily louder until it vibrated in his teeth. Ash adjusted the straps of his backpack, checked the 4 gold coins one last time, and stepped forward as the portal fully opened. The transition was not gentle. For a moment there was only pressure, like being pushed through thick water, then a sharp jolt of cold, and finally solid ground beneath his boots again. Ash blinked and immediately staggered as something small and green slammed into his side. 3 goblins had been waiting near the gate exit. They were short, wiry creatures with yellow eyes and jagged teeth, armed with crude knives and a single rusted short sword. The first one had already closed the distance before Ash could even orient himself. A knife flashed. Pain tore across his left forearm as the blade scraped bone deep. Health, 97 out of 120. Stamina, 98 out of 110. Ash's eyes widened in pure panic as the red numbers flashed across his vision. What? What the hell is that? Health dropping? Stamina dropping? I'm actually getting hurt. This is real. The second goblin lunged from the left before he could process anything further. The rusted short sword bit into his shoulder, ripping cloth and flesh. Hot blood ran down his arm. Health, 71 out of 120. Stamina, 84 out of 110. 71? I just lost almost half my health in 2 hits. The third goblin circled behind him, hissing. Ash swung his backpack in a desperate arc. The heavy canvas struck one of them in the face with a dull thud, buying him half a second. He tried to form a spell, but panic made the mana slip through his fingers like water. Move, just move. He turned and ran. The goblins howled and gave chase, their bare feet slapping against the dirt. Ash's asthma flared instantly. Every breath felt thinner than the last, like trying to pull air through a clogged straw. His lungs burned, his vision narrowed. One of the goblins closed the gap and slashed at the back of his thigh. The cut wasn't deep, but the sudden pain made his leg buckle. He nearly went down. Health, 54 out of 120. Stamina, 51 out of 110. 54 health. Stamina's almost gone. I'm going to die right here. I can't outrun them like this. Ash spun on pure instinct, raised a trembling hand, and forced the first spell he could lock onto through the fear. Blood Severance. A thin crimson thread of mana snapped from his fingertips and streaked toward the nearest goblin. It found the soft flesh of the creature's throat with unnatural precision. The goblin made a wet, choking sound, clutched at its neck, and collapsed in a spray of dark blood. Defeated, Level 1 Goblin. Experience, 5 out of 100. Mana, 128 out of 160. Stamina, 43 out of 110. The other 2 goblins froze, yellow eyes wide. Ash didn't wait to see if they would recover their courage. He turned and kept running, blood dripping from his arm and shoulder, lungs screaming for air that wouldn't come fast enough. After another dozen stumbling strides, he risked a glance back. The remaining goblins had stopped at the body of their companion. One of them kicked the corpse, then both turned and fled into the underbrush with high, panicked shrieks. Ash kept moving until the trees thinned and the road opened into the rolling green hills. Only then did he slow to a limping walk, pressing a shaking hand against the worst of the cuts. Health, 54 out of 120. Mana, 128 out of 160. Stamina, 19 out of 110. His body felt like it had been wrung out. Blood soaked the sleeve of his shirt and ran down to his wrist. Every breath still came with a wheeze. With trembling fingers, he pulled up the regeneration information from the system. Regeneration. Health, 4 per hour. Mana, 8 per hour. Stamina, 6 per minute. Health recovers by the hour. Mana by the hour. Stamina by the minute. I'm going to be limping around wounded for hours. First fight and I almost died to 3 goblins. Perfect start. The road ahead looked safer now. No more immediate threats. The distant town of Millbrook sat against the mountains, smoke rising peacefully from its chimneys. The same quiet unease from before still sat in the back of his mind, but at least the immediate danger had passed. He continued walking, blood drying sticky on his sleeve, until a man working a nearby field noticed him and straightened up. The farmer wiped his hands on a sturdy apron that looked nothing like the simple work clothes people wore back in Fairhaven. Thicker fabric, different cut, and a faint geometric pattern stitched along the edges. He had a slight accent when he called out, the vowels a little broader than what Ash was used to. "You there," the farmer said, eyeing Ash's backpack, travel-worn clothes, and the fresh blood on his arm. "You've got the look of an adventuring class about you. Outsider, aren't you?" Ash stopped a few paces away, breathing hard, unsure what to say. The difference in clothing and speech didn't bother him. He had expected some variation between worlds, but he still felt awkward standing there under the man's assessing gaze, blood still seeping through his sleeve. "Is there a guild hall for adventurers in this town?" he asked finally. The farmer nodded and pointed toward the cluster of buildings ahead. "Aye, there is. Quite large. You can't miss it. Brick building right in the center of town." Ash thanked him quietly and continued down the road, the strange unease still lingering at the edges of his thoughts, now joined by the sharp reminder that this world was not as peaceful as it first appeared. End of Chapter 2.